Have you ever gone to the store and wondered how that one specific brand of coffee is just always there right when you need it? Well, that's not magic, it's supply planning. And believe me, it is a seriously high-stakes balancing act that we're going to break down today.
It all boils down to this one simple but incredibly tough question. How does a company actually know what you and millions of other people are going to buy and when? If you get it right, hey, everyone's happy. But if you get it wrong, you've got empty shelves, which means lost sales, or even worse, warehouses jam-packed with stuff nobody wants, and that's just cash sitting on a shelf collecting dust. And this right here, this is the tug of war at the heart of pretty much every business. On one side, you've got customer demand. It's wild, it's unpredictable, and it's always changing. And on the other side, you've got supply, the actual stuff you have on hand or can get. The whole game is about perfectly balancing these two forces. So to solve this puzzle, companies lean on these really powerful planning systems. You can think of it as the brain of the whole operation, constantly crunching numbers to solve this eternal balancing act. But here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. The system isn't there to replace the human planner. As the source material puts it, the system is more like a co-pilot. It handles all the heavy lifting, the thousands and thousands of calculations, so the human expert can focus on the really tricky stuff, the exceptions and the big strategic decisions. To pull this off, the system basically has two different ways of thinking about the problem. You can think of one as a super fast reflex, and the other as a deep, strategic thinker. So on one hand, you have something called dynamic order tracking. Think of this as the system's reflex. A new sales order pops in, and bam, it immediately tries to find some supply to cover it. It's incredibly fast, but it's also kind of short-sighted. Then you have the full planning system. This is the strategist. It doesn't just look at that one order. It looks at the entire picture, all the demand, all the supply, across all timelines to create the smartest, most efficient plan possible. And this slide right here shows you exactly what I'm talking about. On the left, it's total chaos. That's the first-come, first-served reflex in action. Orders are just grabbing whatever inventory they can as they come in, which means a less urgent order might just steal the last items. But now, look at the right. That's the strategic planner at work. It untangles that whole mess, reallocating supply to make sure the most urgent orders, the ones that are needed first, are covered. It's really the difference between chaos and control. So the most important takeaway here is this. The strategic planning system overrides that simple reflex. It makes sure that priority is based on the due date, following a first-needed, first-served logic. And this is what prevents stockouts for your most important customers and keeps the entire operation running smoothly. Okay, so how does the system actually make these smart decisions? Well, it's not random. It follows a very specific set of rules and priorities, always starting from the top and working its way down. First, it plans for the finished items, the actual products you sell to customers. Then, based on that plan, it calculates what's called derived demand. In other words, how many little components are needed to make all those finished goods. And finally, it works its way all the way down to the basic raw materials needed for those components. It's a top-down approach that makes sure the whole supply chain is perfectly aligned with what the final customer actually wants. This diagram really brings that whole idea to life. See that finished item at the top? The demand for that one single product creates this ripple effect all the way down the supply chain. You just can't plan for the raw materials until you know how many semi-finished parts you need. And you can't plan for those until you know the demand for the final product. It's all connected, and the planning absolutely has to follow that top-down logic for it to work. Okay, so the system knows what's needed and when it's needed. But how does it decide how much to order? Well, planners aren't just locked into one strategy. They have a whole playbook of different reordering policies they can pick and choose from for each item. First up is fixed reorder quantity. This one is super straightforward. When your stock drops below a certain level, the system automatically triggers an order for a preset amount, let's say 100 units. It's simple, it's predictable, and it's perfect for items that have really stable demand. Next is maximum quantity. You can think of this as the top-up policy. When your inventory falls below that reorder point, the system calculates exactly how much you need to order to get right back up to your defined maximum stock level. This one is great for managing items where demand might jump around a bit more. Now, the order policy is really for special cases. It creates a direct, one-to-one link between a supply order and a specific demand. Think about a custom-built piece of furniture or an item that's ordered very, very rarely. You only order it when a customer specifically asks for it. And finally, there's lot for lot. This is a super efficient, just-in-time kind of approach. The system looks at all the demand within a set time frame and orders the exact quantity needed to cover it, and nothing more. This is all about slashing the costs of holding extra inventory. But there's a catch. It requires a hyper-reliable supply chain. Let's call it a high-risk, high-reward kind of play. And this is where that human element really shines. I mean, this slide lays out the playbook perfectly, but there is no single best policy. The real art of supply planning is choosing the right strategy for the right item. Are you dealing with stable demand? Is cost your number one concern? It's a constant game of trade-offs, and that's a decision only a human planner can make. So after all this complex logic, balancing demand, following priorities, applying these reordering policies, what does the human planner actually see? The system doesn't just go off and execute the plan by itself, it presents its findings for review. Okay, so let's look at this. This is the final output. It's called the planning worksheet. Think of it like a dashboard, where the system presents all its suggestions. Hey, create a new purchase order here, or maybe change the quantity on this existing one, or let's expedite this delivery. It's basically a to-do list of recommended actions. And to help the planner prioritize, the system doesn't give commands, it gives warnings. An emergency warning means something is critically wrong, like you have negative inventory. An exception is the system saying, hey, you need to act on this soon. Maybe you're about to dip into your safety stock. And an attention warning is more of an FYI, just a heads up about a potential issue. This whole setup makes the planner's job so much more manageable. All of this really just highlights this powerful partnership between human and machine, right? But it also leads to the really big question for the future. As these systems get smarter and smarter, what is the one thing a human can do that a machine just can't? Is it intuition? Is it creativity when you're solving some totally unexpected problem? Whatever it is, that's what's going to define the future of this entire field.